Okay, in this lesson we're going to learn about factoring by grouping in pairs. So grouping in pairs is a strategy that we learned back in grade 10, and it's where you have a bunch of terms that don't all have one thing in common, but pairs of them do. So because we're looking at pairs of terms, that means two terms together, we need to have an even number of terms to be able to use this strategy. So we're going to take a look at the example, 6x cubed plus 2x squared minus 9x minus 3. So when I look at all four of the terms together, I notice that they don't have anything in common other than just one, right? Some of them divide by 2, some of them divide by 3, but they don't all divide by the same number. They also don't all have an x. So what we can do is we can group together terms that have things in common. So I think I'm going to just sort of leave them in the order that they are, but I have 6x cubed and 2x squared. Those both divide by 2, and they both have x's, so they definitely have something in common. And then if I look at the last two terms, they both divide by 3, and that's good enough. So what we're going to do is common factor out what each pair has in common. So 6x cubed plus 2x squared, they both divide by 2, they both have an x, and the smallest exponent is a square. 6x cubed divided by 2x squared, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then x cubed divided by x squared is x. Now 2 divided by 2 is 1, and x squared divided by x squared is also 1. 1 times 1 is 1. All right, in the second pair, I notice they both divide by 3, and the very first term in that pair is negative. So I'm going to say they have a 3 in common, but because there's a minus here, I'm going to do a negative 3 that they have in common. So negative 9 divided by negative 3 is positive 3, and then x. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. So you will notice at this point that we ended up with the same bracket for both. So not everything factors by grouping in pairs, even if it has an even number of terms. In order for the grouping in pairs to work, you need to get two brackets that are identical. And if you don't, then this is not the right factoring method to choose. So since I got the same bracket, I can common factor out that bracket and say this is 3x plus 1 times, well, 2x squared times 3x plus 1 divided by 3x plus 1. Those brackets would cancel out, and I would just have 2x squared. And then negative 3 times 3x plus 1, if I divide that by 3x plus 1, I just get left with negative 3. So this factored to the multiplication question, 3x plus 1 times 2x minus 3. So the next example is for you to try. There are answers down at the bottom of the page so you can check. But if you're having a little bit of trouble, I recommend you pause the video, try the question, and then unpause it, and in a moment I will go through the solution to the question. Okay, so I have 5xy minus 10x minus 7y plus 14. So I want to try to group these in pairs that have something in common. So in the previous example, I just left them in the order they were in, but you can rearrange the terms if you need to. But if I look at the first two terms, they both divide by 5 and they both have an x. And if I look at the second two terms, they both divide by 7. So I feel like I should be able to group them in the order that they're currently in. So from that first pair, they both divide by 5 and they both have an x. So I'm going to say the common factor is x, and then take 5xy, divide it by 5x, I get 1y. If you want to put in the 1, you can do that. If you just want to write a y, that's okay as well. Now in this previous question, you had to write the 1 because you had to have something there, but here because I have a variable, you don't have to necessarily write the 1. Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2, and the x's divide out. So I have 1y minus 2. From my second pair, I see that they have a 7 that they both divide by, And that term here is negative, so I'm going to common factor out a negative 7. Negative 7y divided by negative 7 is 1y. And 14 divided by negative 7 is negative 2. Now, I notice that I got the same bracket for both, which is a good sign. If not, that means this does not factor by grouping, or maybe you made a mistake. So here, I'm going to common factor out the 1y minus 2. I don't think I'm going to write the 1. I'm just going to write y minus 2. And then here, what am I left with? Well, the y minus 2's are going to divide out, and I will just be left with 5x from the first term and minus 7 from the second term. So my final answer there is y minus 2, 5x minus 7. All right, you can join me in the next video to learn our next type of factoring.